Hi, good evening, and welcome to my daily live session on various topics from my toolkit. My name is Dinakar. I am the founder of Samuthana and the inventor of DoHow for driving people to acquire leadership and management skills. I use this new background. I think you must have noticed that uh, one side for leadership and the other side for management. It's about acquiring, getting people to acquire these skills and not teach or learn these skills. It's to acquire as they start achieving the goals and the targets which are challenging to them. And we basically handhold them during this process, and in the process they acquire the leadership and management skills. That's what DoHow is all about. It's about management, leadership and management development, not by teaching, by getting people to achieve a goal, driving people to achieve a goal. This is the goal which we would have chosen, and the path which is chosen for them to achieve. That is the what that along the path they would acquire the uh, various skills, leadership and management skills. That's a basic, what should I say, idea of do how, and do check out my website dinakarmurthy.com for more details, or write an email to me. My email is dinakar@samutana.com. With that very brief introduction, let me directly jump into today's topic, which is closed loop control. And today my main focus would be to explain how and where this closed loop control can be implemented. See, I always have been telling that there are four phases in whatever job that we do, and that is more or less the same in any other activity too. It's a very standard classical PDCA, you can say, in somewhere or the other. The first would be the plan activity, where uh, it is about checking the current reality and making sure that there is a understanding as to what needs to be done. Then comes the doing phase, where it could be problem solving, it could be understanding what needs to be done, doing something. And the next one would be the checking phase, where you're constantly checking for progress, checking for improvements. And the last one would be the act phase, where it is about changing, it's about learning. Acting is not about doing something. Acting is about learning. Acting is about going to a next level, and that means that it means there is a change in the mindset and culture. That's what acting is all about. So these are the four phases: current reality, problem solving, stable process, and progress, and mindset and culture. And in my wisdom, closed loop control can be implemented for problem solving and also during the stable process. During problem solving, closed loop control really has a huge benefit. I'll tell you what the reason is. See, when you are trying to solve problems, typically if the problem is so easy to solve, then there is no need for problem solving. Problem solving is needed only if there is a very critical situation where people are not understanding what are the cause and effect, and therefore you need to do problem solving. And in my wisdom, problem solving is a lot to do with observation. A lot to do with observation and trying to tweak around something. I'll just give you one example. I remember once we had a problem with our grinding machine. It was developing cracks way back in mid 90s. And then I had a customer who came down, I think from Holland or Germany or England, one of the European countries. I don't remember which country it was. So this chap started telling me, see, Dinakar, the only thing that you can do is just keep on looking at what's happening on the component. You need to really look under the microscope, and that really was a big enlightenment for me. And then I started looking under the microscope. Then you can see a lot of things under a microscope. Microscope means a fairly powerful one. And when you look at the surface of the component after it is ground, after the grinding is done, then you can see the way the lines are generated, the way the uh, color of the surface, it would indicate whether it's burnt or not burnt. And our problem was burning. So once we did that, we started trying out different tool settings, different grinding, different dressing settings for the wheel, different feed rates, and different coolant positions, etc. And the way that we could really get that in control was only through a very closed loop control of understanding what's happening, checking immediately. This was a visual inspection, mind you. There was no way of measuring so easily. It was just visual inspection under a microscope, very, very powerful microscope. And then within no time, we could solve the problem because we understood what needs to be done. So you understand when you change one cause, what's happening. And the main advantage of a closed loop control is to understand what would be the impact of modifying or meddling with one of the causes. See, normally in any problem there will be multiple causes. The other one which happened recently was with one of our customers, where it was a very complex problem. Suddenly the product started developing cracks. Crack is a very, very painful thing because the reasons can be multiple. And to really do that, one way of doing it is to really take a list of all the items which you are defined. All the items, it could be the temperature, it could be the diameter, it could be the position, it could be the angle, it could be the length, whatever that you have defined. List out everything, and once you have done that, you check at one particular point, and then only change one of the parameters, and again check again. So that's something which can really work if this concept of closed loop control is, because you are continuously producing, right? You can't stop the production. See, most of the time it's a kind of a dilemma whether I stop the production and do research and analysis and find out what the problem is, or do I continue with the production. Closed loop control is a very, very interesting tool for solving problem as you are producing, because as you are getting the feedback, try to see what happened when a particular parameter got changed up and down. So that's something which happened in that case, and then we found the solution very quickly. The next one where you can deploy and applicate closed loop control is during the stable progress phase. Because what is progress? Progress is basically trying to continuously achieve the ideal state. Ideal state is ideal equilibrium. Like what in physics, classically one says that, look, the ideal state of the universe is when the entire thing comes to a halt, when there is no when there are no forces available, and maybe it happens on someday when the entire thing stops, because of the momentum has come to that situation that there is no need for any further movement, and it'll stop. Someday it may happen. The other ideal state could be the black hole, where everything gets contracted and then you again start up once again. So the ideal state is where it is zero. Zero is the ideal state. Zero lead time, zero setup time, zero touch time, zero defect. All these are all zeros, a lot of zeros are ideal states. Now, whenever you're trying to approach towards the ideal state, you need to be constantly reducing the variations, right? The variations have to come down. Only then can you go to the ideal state. To reduce the variation again, it's important to understand what is the impact of each of the causes on the effect. And to be able to do that, closed loop control is something which is very, very interesting. I remember one example from my days in Brazil. I used to implement SPC those days there. I did that the third time, I think, third or fourth time. It was a very challenging thing to implement SPC after three guys had failed out. And my way of implementing SPC was just mindset and culture. I didn't really work on mathematics or statistics at all. It was only to talk about why is it that we are doing SPC and how to do SPC. And what is the benefit of SPC? That's all I worked on, and then it really went on magically. So there we had a particular situation where the one of the butting surfaces of the housing. Housing is a component where you put all the minor components into a bigger product. That's how it's called as housing. So in that housing, there is a surface which had to be very, very flat, and that flat surface was being machined on a transfer line using a PKD insert, polycrystalline PCD insert, polycrystalline diamond insert. Aluminium it was. So polycrystalline diamond is quite common for aluminium machining and very high speed machining. And that would really generate a surface which is almost as good as a ground surface, where the surface roughness is very, very low. And there, again, talking about closed loop control, we use this in a very, very interesting way. But the problem was that we were not sure why the surface was not always uniform. The flatness would not be uniform always. And then the idea was to really look at all the variables there. Again, before you do the closed loop control, it's important to do the Ishikawa diagram. I think I'll talk about that one of these days. Ishikawa diagram is basically the cause and effect diagram, where you're trying to list out all causes of a particular problem. And once that is listed, then we started attacking one after the other. And we finally found out that the problem was basically with the clamping of the holder, which would go and then do the surface machining there. And that clamping was not rigid enough. Therefore, when the RPM would increase, there would be some kind of a vibration, and that vibration was causing the clamping bolt to get loosened out, and that would cause a kind of a jagged edge on the surface, and that jagged edge would then result in a different surface finish. So wherever you are doing, trying to check what is happening and then go back and then immediately correct it, it would really give you a fantastic result, because that's something which is standard. And on a modern and a technologically advanced way, in Germany when I was there was what was called as a digital injector model, which was basically a kind of today the word for that is twin. You create a twin of that particular production line onto a computer tech or a simulation or whatever it is, and then you try to find out what's happening and what can be corrected. So there we had a lot of strategies to assemble so that the first pass yield would be high. So there would be a feedback taken from the next station, and then that feedback would be given back to the first station based on the simulation. Again, you would use the simulation to do that, not physically. That means you made the component now, a little advanced, and after that you simulate as to what would be the end result based on the values that you have achieved at that particular stage, and based on that end result that you have achieved, you come back and correct this so that the end result would be within the target limits, whatever you want to achieve, using the twin. And today's world is twin. Those days we used to call it as simple simulation. So the twin, once you have created, in a IoT setup, you would find out and forecast what would be the expected, what would be the predicted outcome, and if the predicted outcome is not something as satisfying, change it here even without doing the production, doing the processing of the next two steps. That would be again a very, what should I say, advanced closed loop control, which is possible with IoT. But again, IoT or computers, technology, all this is good, but basically first you need to really work on the basics. Basics would be to understand the cause and effect, make sure that people have got their hang of it. Only then the technology will work. Otherwise, it'll be more a pain than a pleasure. Thanks so much for watching. For those of you in India, have a nice evening. For those of you outside India, have a great day ahead, and see you tomorrow, more or less at the same time, with the same topic. Tomorrow, my main discussion would be on the cons and negatives of closed loop control. Everywhere you have got the negative and positive. And also do let me know if you like this new background. It is I felt it was nice, and so thanks a lot, Deepak, for your comment, and see you tomorrow, more or less at the same time, and goodbye, good night.